Well, welcome to Dragonheart. This week, it's just me and Mark. Bill's off gallivanting somewhere in Nando's, and Neil's probably saving 100 pigs or whatever it is. Mark, we're going to Qatar. Wales have reached the first World Cup in God how many years. How do you feel after watching that one?
Well, I'm excited now you've told me we're going to Qatar and Callum FM paying for it. I'm very excited now. Well, I mean, this is one of the few things that I can say is before my lifetime. We've never done this before. So, wow, it's remarkable, isn't it? And I acknowledge the emotional nature of playing Ukraine as well. But I was really proud that we handled that right too, I think, because I think we showed good respect to the Ukrainians. But ultimately, it's a game of football. And we've waited a long time for this. And yeah, just fantastic. The players deserve it because they have consistently been excellent, haven't they? They've really done us proud. And they get to play in the World Cup.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic way to end the season as a Welsh and Wrexham fan. As it's been a fantastic season being a Wrexham fan, and we're going to go through that with our season in review. We've got the retain list to go through as well, and we've got the Qatar, the Wales thing, everything, and we've got a few little bits and bobs at the end too. So, without further ado, this is Dragonheart.
I'm Liam McClendon, and this is Dragonheart.
The retain list is out, and for me, usually one of the saddest parts of the season, especially in previous years, and this year, of course. But I'd like to say thanks to each one of the players that have played a part in this season and previous seasons, Mark, because there's some great players in this retain list.
Yeah, it's an indication of how things have changed, isn't it, really, for the club? Because some of these players have given very good service to us, and some of these players would probably give very good service if our budget was still what it used to be. But I think when we go through the names, we'll recognise that it's about the fact that we are upgrading a squad to be ready for, League One. That means that players have been released who should be very proud of what they've done in a Wrexhamshire for us.
Of course. So let's go through it. First, it was not really a surprise. I think he was brought in as a complete emergency backup for the big games because, he's a very experienced head, and that's Lee Camp.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's been a really good asset for both Dibble and Sichapaniak this season. Just from his experience, you can learn.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'd like to say thanks for him to come in, really. It was, it was most expected, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm sure that was made very plain to him at the start that the chances are he wouldn't be getting a contract. And yeah, he's having another experienced hand is always a good thing in the running. I'm not superstitious, and he's the reason why. Because I can remember one other example of us doing that, which was 92-93, when we brought in Peter Fox, who was a very experienced goalkeeper who played a lot of time at the top level and the second level for Stoke City. And he was a cracking keeper, but we just brought him in as backup because basically our first choice keeper we couldn't trust him anymore. Our backup keeper was having a fantastic season, but we needed someone else. And so we brought him in. He never played, and we got promoted. So that's why I'm not superstitious, because we did exactly the same thing again, going for promotion, bringing an experienced guy. We're not intending to play him. We don't play him, but we didn't get promoted. We finished higher than that season, but we didn't get promoted. That's life.
That is life. But yeah, good luck to Lee Camp in the future. Cameron Green. I wasn't totally shocked by this, but I think if we didn't have this big takeover, he definitely wouldn't have been one we would have released, because he is a prospect, and I think a lot of National League clubs will be looking at him, Mark.
I think there's a lot of people on this list that if you're a National League club with your head screwed on, you go after straight away. Absolutely right. He's I'm sad to see him go, if I'm perfectly honest, because he's young and he could develop. And there's a part of me thinks it'd be quite nice maybe to loan him out and give him another season, maybe in the National League. I know what you'd say about Cleworth, but now our situation's a bit different. There aren't places in the team to develop a player through. But I think I'd quite like to have seen that. But again, I totally understand the logic of it as well. And the reason I'd say that, I suppose, is the example that I think of is Neil Slaffield. He was Wrexham's captain at the end of the 90s and was a functional player in many ways. I'm not trying to be critical of him, but he was big, extremely strong, square-shouldered fullback. He wasn't subtle, he wasn't technical, but he could damn well tackle, and he could damn well get the ball a long distance away when there was danger. And when Brian Flynn released him as captain, I'll be honest, I was really quite shocked, thinking, well, we're down near the bottom of the 4th division. He's got a hell of a lot of heart. He's a good servant to the club over 2 spells. Do we let him go? Well, yeah, we do, because we brought in Barry Jones, and it was that promotion season. So Barry Jones was captain of the local reserves, was a class fullback, played a lot of years through the 90s for us as a fullback and a centre-back going up to what's now League One. So, yeah, sometimes you have to be hard-nosed and say, this lad's good, but we're aiming for something higher and bring him in. I'd love to have a buyback clause somehow on him, but we haven't, because we released him. But I'm sorry to see Cameron Green go. Good attitude as well, and very naturally fit as well.
Yeah, and again, another naturally gifted footballer, and I think has been a fan's favourite for the last few seasons in Dan Jarvis, which I think out of the whole list was the biggest shock in my eyes, because Parkinson used him and utilised him quite a lot this season, and he's a very technically gifted footballer. But again, it shows the aspirations of this team that we can afford to release players like Dan Jarvis. But I tell you what, there's not going to be many National League sides that are going to say no to someone with his caliber.
I wonder if there might be some League Two sides who might think they take a punt on his quality and technical ability and potential, because he is a very good player, isn't he? But I mean, I suppose he wasn't getting regular game time with us now, and we're looking to upgrade the squad considerably. So that does play against squad players, doesn't it? Who'd be thinking, the manager would be thinking, if I bring in 2 more players ahead of him, will he actually get on the pitch much? But he did, Parkinson, often single him out for praise. He often turned to him when he needed him and trusted him. And remember, of course, that Notts County game, when it's him and Ponticelli who was starting in the FA Trophy quarter-final. Now, Phil Parkinson was not throwing that game. He was recognising the need to rest Mullin and Palmer, but picking 2 strikers who he thought could do a job. And Jarvis, to be fair, scored a cracking goal in that game. So it's a shame. I do wonder whether some of these decisions might be a little coloured by what's happened in the last couple of weeks. And not too much. I suspect Parkinson has known his mind for a while. Don't get me wrong. It doesn't strike me as somebody who jumps into reckless decisions. However, I do think that in big games at the end of the season, he's put people off the bench, and does he look at the bench and think, "Oh, I'd love to have an explosive striker to throw on in this situation"? You know what I mean? I'd love to have a bloke who is liable to go on and really put the cat among the pigeons. And so I wonder if he sort of thought, yeah, the strength and depth is something I need to address, and you can only do that by being very harsh and cutting out players who would do a good job for you, but you think you can bring in someone who'll do more of a job for you.
Yeah. And that's football, isn't it? It's very ruthless, unfortunately. And again, we'll go from that note to Jordan Ponticelli, who's been a fantastic servant for the club. Excellent last season. He's been great when he's come on this season. A young player. Again, I'm repeating myself a lot here. There's going to be a lot of National League sides and, again, League Two sides who are going to look at him and think, yeah, he's worth a punt. He's a cracking player. You've been a big fan of his, haven't you, Mark? And it's quite sad to see him go, but yeah.
I mean, absolutely, and I certainly have. I just felt from that loan spell he had under Brian Flynn, Dean Keats, same thing, where when he came in the first time, you could see that goal poacher instinct, and he just looked like a 20-goal-a-season striker. And it's a real shame that for a variety of different reasons, it's not developed that way. Injuries being a key part of that. And like last season, as you said, he finished it extremely well. But until the closing 6 weeks or so, injuries really affected his performances and his ability to be on the pitch and his continuity. And it was only really the last 6 weeks or so that he looked really fully fit and able to contribute. And you could see what he could do then. And then the problem this season for him, in a sense, if he's looking to sort of showcase his talents, is that we brought in Mullin. And Mullin is magnificent. And any striker playing with Mullin has got to know that one of their main priorities is working for Mullin, sacrificing themselves for Mullin. And I think we should all raise our hats to Ponticelli for that, because he did a hell of a lot of selfless work this season. He covered so much ground. He made so many runs to create space for Mullin. He made so many runs just fetching and carrying for Mullin. I think he deserves a really good pat on the back, to be honest. Yeah. But the goal output wasn't really there. And so I get the logic, I mean, I remember saying to you after the first training day of the season that Green and Ponticelli just look so incredibly naturally fit, incredible athletes. And that was what we could see when he was rolling his socks down and battling formal. But in sacrificing himself, he sacrifices the chance to knock in 15 goals, be a main man and keep a contract perhaps, which is cruel. But like you said, that's what was like. It's cutthroat, isn't it? It's a shame. I thought he was a little unlucky in that, right. Mullin won the Steve Edwards goal this season. Quite right. It was a wonderful goal against Stockport. If it hadn't been for that goal, it just has to win because it's got all the factors: skill, the time of the game, the importance of the match, the nature of the opposition. That was an amazing moment. That has to be goal of the season. If that hadn't happened, or if he just scuffed it in from 6 yards out, I'd have been tempted by Ponticelli's goal at Aldershot. That's such a beautiful goals. James Jones running down the wing, deep in his own half, flicks it over the man in front of him and just runs past him. Hits the most perfect ball to the edge of the area, an inch either side, and Ponticelli can't get there, but instead just drops perfectly for him. And Ponticelli, 1-1 with the keeper, in the D. Obviously, he's got time. He can bring it down. He can take a touch. He can make sure, no. He knows he is Da Vinci. He wants to apply that final beautiful paint stroke. So he just leans away from the ball and caresses it into the top right corner with a bit of bend on it. It's a beautiful goal, that. I mean, honestly. So we'll always have that from him. And the goal that Bromley he scored a couple of years ago, which was top draw.
Yeah, an excellent player, great work rate. And another excellent player who I think, has been in such the wrong place at the wrong time with his injuries, because the season before last, Kwame Thomas was hitting crazy form. And I think if he didn't get injured, we would have been in the playoffs that season. An excellent target man who's great with the ball, great positioning, is fox in the box at times, scored some great goals. It's sad to see Kwame go, but he's not looked quite the same since the injury. We have a better target man in Ollie Palmer, and you could argue Jake Hyde as well. I feel really sorry for Kwame, but like I said, I don't think he'll struggle finding a club because he's a good player.
Exactly. He's a smashing bloke as well. Really nice fella. And last season, he was a phenomenon, wasn't he? He was absolutely fabulous. And you're 100% right. If he'd stayed fit for the whole season, we definitely would have been in the playoffs. In fact, it may be worth mentioning that, because yesterday I was going through the stats, unusually for me, and I was thinking, and this is a slightly misleading stat, I'm going to admit, but season on season, like percentage improvements from the previous season, your points total, what team, what season have we improved most from the previous season? And interestingly, it was last season in our history. Wow. That's the biggest sort of jump in terms of points that we've achieved, percentage wise. So taking into account how many games you played. And to be fair, that team last season did lay a foundation, even though obviously there are some fans who don't like the trust, don't like Keats, and don't want to acknowledge that. But yeah, I mean, he was central to that. They would have got in the playoffs. I'm not saying they would have won it, but they would have got in the playoffs. And again, I mean, although he was a good finisher and good in the air, very good in the air, I always really enjoyed, again, that work rate. He was the bloke who, in the 95th minute, when you're winning 4-0 against Sutton, still chases the ball into the corner and blocks a clearance. He'd be very much like that. There's everything you got to love about him. And I think the emotional impact of him getting injured was massive as well. I think the whole squad and all the fans. I remember them when I heard the news the day before that Notts County game. I was like, no, this can't be. No, I was on the day. I was thinking, this can't be right. No, this can't happen. There was denial. He was smashing. I mean, we haven't seen what he's like in the training ground now he's coming back. He did well in the trophy, but that was against weak opposition. He struggled to make an impact in the league. And my dad always told me, managers bring in players and then they want to give their own signings a chance, which is quite natural. So he's probably third choice target man, isn't he, behind Palmer and Hyde, because Hyde is player Parkinson's brought in, and I'm sure he wants to give him a better chance with an injury-free run. So, yeah, you don't really need three big target men unless you're going to go full Bromley, do you really? So... So, yeah, sadly, the maths didn't add up for him, bless him, but I wish him all the best, and I think it'll be lovely to see him resurrect himself.
Yeah, I think, as we said, there's a lot of National League clubs who will definitely take a punt at the ones we've mentioned, and the other releases were David Jones, who's a bit... I don't want to sound too bad. He's a bit too old, isn't he? To be fair, he's obviously a quality player. He had that quality goal against Solihull this season, but unfortunately hasn't had the legs to keep up with the National League this season, really, isn't he? And you can tell he's a quality player, but unfortunately, it is what it is, isn't it, Mark, with him?
Yeah, it is a shame. He does have that quality and that experience, but I mean, I think, again, I'm sure he was fully aware what was going on. He's a stopgap signed at the end of the transfer window because we've not completed our squad build. He's the sticking plaster until Tom O'Connor arrives, isn't he? And yeah. I mean, the truth is that the club will have known going into it. Last season, he didn't have a club for the whole season because of his awful luck with injuries in the last few years. He's played very little football in the last 3-4 years. And it was always likely that it was just good to have him around as a body. But having said that, hopefully he'll stay on as a coach, and there's lots of positive talk about that. And another very experienced man at the top end of football in our setup is a very good thing. He's local. People like local, don't they? Yeah. And as well, apart from that goal, which is another one that you think, surely that's goal of the season. What a phenomenal goal that was. I also think back to the Dover game at Dover, where we didn't play well at all. We fluke a goal from a corner going directly in. We bring him on to sit in front of the back three, and he made one absolutely massive block late in the game. He did ever so well when there's a Dover player's got a clear sight of goal 10 yards out, and he does brilliantly to step in and get that block in and make sure we win the game. And little things like that matter, because that would have been 2 points off our season, just there like that. So, he's not been able, because of injuries, to play a full part, but he's played a part, and we applaud him for that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Just a shame we had him 5 years too late, really.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think he would have been quite clearly too good for this level. And the other two is Devontae Redmond and David Szczepaniak, who I think, I don't want to sound too brutal here, but obviously Szczepaniak's a young goalkeeper, and Redmond for me isn't really done enough to prove that he's good enough for this league. So yeah, I think if these two find clubs at maybe the Welsh League or National League North, I think they could definitely find a good run of games.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Szczepaniak first, very nice lad, real enthusiast. But I mean, I guess again, I'm talking about bench depth before. When a push comes to shove and Lainton gets injured and he's out for the whole season, Parkinson has no option but to bring in a third keeper rather than trust that Szczepaniak will be fine if necessary. I'm not saying that as criticism of Chichipaniak, but you just wouldn't want to throw him into that sort of situation. So I guess that probably does colour his view in terms of we got good young goalkeepers coming through the youth team. David's now a bit older, and maybe it's fair to say, well, you're probably not going to break in with us, but go and play at a similar level and make a career for yourself. He's got the physique, and he's had good coaching and worked with good keepers. I really, really wish him well. He's a nice lad. And then as for Redmond's, I will tread carefully here. I was incredibly shocked when he got a contract renewal last summer. I'm saying no more. And he didn't get much game time this season. So he gets loaned out with Green. I did wonder whether it might have been, you're not going to get game time with us this year. Go out, get experience. We may look at you again. But I never got that feeling about Redmond. When he went to Kidderminster, it was like, that's it, surely. Brian Hughes made a big investment in him, and it didn't come off. Keats tried to give him a chance in that box midfield, which should have suited him down to the ground, and he didn't take that chance. And Keats, by his second season, didn't want to use him at all. And then Parkinson's not used him. So it's not the biggest shock. He's clearly got ability. But he needs to find somewhere that feels right for him and feels good for him, where he can, settle and be the boss of a team. So I think he's got the quality to do that. He just needs to find the right place, I think.
Yeah, someone like Chester down the road, a team of that, National League North level, I think.
You say Chester then?
For him. Yeah, the team.
That's a bit harsh. Come on, he's not that bad.
Well, a team in the National League North. Or, even someone like TNS who, win a lot, and he can not be playing teams of high cap. I think the National League has been so high quality this season, and it's hard to compete at that level. Yeah. So, yeah, and I'd like to just cap off this section by saying commiserations, but good luck to all on the list, and I'm sure they'll all find clubs because they are good players, and I think it's a real high caliber of released players this year, which makes me sad, but also makes me quite excited to who we're going to bring in. So, still exciting times to be a Wrexham fan. So after this, we're going to be talking about the season as a whole.
This is Sean Brisley. This is Dragonheart.
A disappointing end to the season, Mark, but for me, one of the most memorable, insane seasons following Wrexham in my whole entire life. Honestly, on the pitch, brilliant.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It was really incredible, wasn't it? They gave us so many amazing memories. I mean, I think one of my main takeaways from it as well is just how the fans rallied and kept faith no matter what. Yeah. They know we're going somewhere. They want to be on board it. And that the way that the team earns that love from the fans instead of just that natural support a fan gives was fabulous. And I think it was the biggest indicator that we got everything right this season, I think, really.
Yeah, we did. Off the pitch, on the pitch, everything was right. It's just unfortunate that, I personally put it down to a bit of mental and physical fatigue towards the end of the season where we slipped off and lost the semi-final. That's where I put it. We didn't quite win the league where we probably could have done if we didn't slip against Bournemouth and a few other games. Really hold a grudge against this team at all. It is what it is, and unlike other seasons where we have missed out with us playoff games before, the 98-point season, the year we lost to Newport, and the year we lost to Eastleigh, you think, where do you go from here? Because we don't have this big budget.
Yeah.
The big players are going to leave. This season, I don't have that worry at all, and it's quite nice, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's a clear sense of of something building here, isn't there? And it's fantastic. The achievements of this team are fabulous, and if you look at it in the context of our history, if you adjust for 3 points to a win, because obviously that was brought in 1980 in the Football League. So if any season before then you give 3 points for a win, then this is our second highest points total ever, after, wait for it, the 98-point season. Yeah, so this is our highest ever one. And then when you look at the other team, their seasons at the top end, third place is the 1970 promotion season. Fourth place is the outlier, which I'll come back to in a second, because I'm going to blow your socks off. Fifth place is the 2003 Dennis Smith promotion season. Sixth place is the legendary 1977-78 season. Next is the season before that, when we blew it and had to get 1 point out of the last 2 home games to go up and lost them both. I mean, that's remarkable. You know, those are all our great seasons. I've got also the 32-33 season when Tommy Bamford's banging the goals in for fun is there. The 92-3 promotion season is down there, but that was an example there of starting badly and winding it up, because before Christmas we didn't look like a promotion team, so we dropped a lot of points in the first half of the season. The outlier, interestingly, is the Brian Hughes season. The fourth best season in terms of points was 18-19 when we started at Ricketts, then had Barrow, and then had Hughes. And although I'm not going to try and pretend Brian Hughes was a success, clearly he was not a success, and when he went, he had to go. People do forget that, I've said this before, so I apologize for repeating myself. We actually had the best run in ever in the National League under him. We hit the playoffs with the best momentum we've ever managed. So, you know, maybe that shouldn't be forgotten, even though I accept he wasn't a success. But yeah, most away goals in the league of all time in the history of the club. Fantastic. I mean, the stats are amazing. If I look at the stats in terms of post 1921 when we joined the Football League, because let's be honest, that's when we were actually joining national competition. Before then, we were playing regional leagues. Some of our club records, please don't get me wrong, they are club records, because that is Wrexham AFC. So I wouldn't devalue them. But 1921 is the point where we are put into a level according to our quality and play against teams of a similar quality. Before then, you know, we've got, well, I might get to this, you know, that the fact that we scored 6 goals in consecutive home league games this season. You know, we've done that before in the 1890s, but it's against teams like Caergule. So you sort of expect that, wouldn't you? But in terms of since 1921, we had our best goal difference ever. So that's kind of something, isn't it? Really,
it is heartbreaking, isn't it? You know, that we're not talking about us being promoted.
Oh yeah,
you know, with this side, but it is what it is. We had Stockport, who I think on our day, Wrexham were a better side than Stockport, man for man, and it's shown. We beat them in the FA Trophy and we stuffed them in the league, but unfortunately, Stockport have been that bit more consistent throughout the rest of the season, haven't they?
Yeah.
And then when we got to the National League final, semi-final, sorry, and congratulations to Grimsby, by the way, excellent club, well deserved. We also had the heartbreak of the FA Trophy the week before, which I think has maybe had a bit of a mental effect, a bit of mental and physical fatigue. So, you know, we could have been walking out this season with a league and cup double and could have been saying this is the best Wrexham side ever since, you know, when we were in the old Division 2. But it hasn't come out that way. That's going to be for next season.
Yeah, exactly. And I think next season will be wonderful, as I've said before. I mean, we've got to be careful with quality judgments, haven't we? Because we are playing, theoretically, hey, Neil Williams is in the building.
Hello. I am sorry.
Out of the pig pen and into the podcast.
Yeah.
We're just looking back at the season, Neil, and I'm trying to stop Chay from jumping out of a window for as he thinks about what might have been.
yeah, we can all think of what it might have been, but you know, it is what it is. We just weren't good enough at the end of the day. We just petered out. We just didn't have the legs. You know, if we'd had a full transfer window like everybody else and been able to sign players like everybody else for the whole season, matters may have been different. But it is what it is. We can't change it. We go again in August.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking at some stats as well. I was saying that we got to be careful with quality judgments. And if I'm going to say that 1921 is when the standards raised because we joined the Football League and, you know, records set after that are more meaningful, I've also got to acknowledge we're currently playing in the lowest level ever. And so there are statistics where, you know, fairly mediocre near misses in the National League feature quite high up statistically because we are playing weaker opposition.
But National League is at a very high standard this season. You look at the top, I'd argue top 11 would give league the bottom half of League Two. Each one of them would give any of them games. You know, you look at Boreham Wood, they got to the round 4 of the FA Cup and they finished 9th this season.
Because we broke them.
Yeah, we did break them. You know, we got Chesterfield who were at 7th. Southend who looked a good sturdy side at 13th. I'd argue this has probably been the strongest National League for years. Each team have quality players. For us to get the points we did and to finish where we were, we've had a really, really strong season. This is year 1 in our project. So roll on next year, honestly.
I'm not denying that. I'm just saying that we are in the 5th division and a team of Wrexham's size should be finishing fairly high up. And the points totals, our record in the championship level is not as good as it is in national. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Goalie records and all the best goalkeepers in our history in terms of goals conceded per minute. The National League ones now, apart from Di Davis, because it's and Andy Dibble, beg your pardon. Apart from those two.
Well, but right, let's change the subject a little bit with the. Let's talk about this season as an entertainment spectacle. Let's say, because we've had some crazy games. You know, the Dover game springs to mind straight away. You know, you've got the Stockport. You know, we've had some absolute wild games. There's gonna be loads of games that we've forgotten about. The Wealdstone away game where we scored 2 goals pretty much in the last minute. You know, the Eastleigh at home game where we steal it in the last minute. I've never known a side to steal games. Just for entertainment value alone, Neil, this has to be up there. One of the best seasons being a Wrexham fan.
Oh, definitely so. I think, you know, every fan in that ground had their money's worth this season. Maybe the second half of the season, maybe not the first half, where I thought we were quite boring the way we played, you know, and we were defending 1-0 leads and, you know, we struggled a lot. You know, we lost points because we couldn't defend. And my aspect is, you know, best form of defence is attack. And we didn't do that the first half of the season. I thought the first half of the season was very mediocre. And we just came alive, you know, after the January transfer window, and then we just put our foot on the gas then, and a little bit too late, unfortunately. But that's football, guys.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I think how important was the signings we made in January.
Well, I mean, they were massive, weren't they? And Neil is hitting the nail on the head already. If we were able to make those signings when the other clubs were able to in our league, we'd have won this league comfortably. Because I appreciate, you know, as you said earlier, Chay, games like the Boreham Wood game away and the Bromley game away and Woking are disappointing, but we'd have more strength on the depth on the bench. We'd have been able to rotate a bit more in the first half of the season to keep things fresh, and we'd have had more quality too. So it's that first half of the season that hurts us most, not only because we didn't have those things, but because, well, to be honest, we did drop some poor points in the first half of the season because the team wasn't complete yet. But the team now is complete. But like you say, the entertainment value this season,
totally agree.
We've just been through the roof, haven't we? You know, in terms of how good we are to watch. And I don't know about you guys, but I love the character as well. We get a sense of Paul Mullen and Ollie Palmer being these larger than life characters who drag teams through, of Tozer being this rock solid bloke who could be relied upon, of Hayden being this force of nature. Maybe it's because you buy quality players, but you bring in characters as well, and people who become iconic immediately.
Yeah, Ollie Palmer is like, when he scores, he does like that big battle cry, doesn't he? And, the fans love him. And Paul Mullin, everyone loves Paul Mullin. He's become an icon at Wrexham, isn't he? To the point where certain pubs in town were making people promise that they wouldn't sing the Paul Mullin chant because it was getting on the barman's nerves that much, the bar owner's nerves that much. You're going into town. It's just, it's gone beyond football this season. It's made Wrexham into this big thing again, where you are going out on random nights out on a Friday or a Saturday, and people are singing Wrexham songs in pubs. You're walking through town, you're seeing kids wearing Wrexham tops and not Man United and Liverpool tops. It's really transformed the town, isn't it, Neil?
Not just the town, surrounding orientated you go to, even around here in Shropshire, they speak to you and it's all Wrexham. Oh, Wrexham did this, Wrexham that, and the owners and the goals are scored and how they come back from losing to win games, So we've got the attention, I think, as we said, because we're on the radio as well, we get the attention globally now and definitely nationally. But yes, brought a brand new buzz to North Wales. Everybody's talking about the team. You hear a lot more about it on Radio Wales and Radio Cymru. And it's only for the good of the club. I think they sold 6,000 season tickets already. And I was speaking to somebody today, and they said, Shrewsbury, we'd love that amount of season ticket holders. They won't have a patch on Wrexham on our season ticket holders. Mm-hmm. And, the new season starts beginning of August, and it'll be a packed house again. And, with a few new additions, I think the team will be ready to go. And hopefully this season it'll be attractive football from the go, and we're putting goals in from the go and winning games that we maybe lost or drew the early part of last season, and run away with this league, I'm hoping.
Yeah, let's win the league just after. Let's get that far ahead. Wales will win the World Cup, and then Wrexham are going to be that many points ahead. We've practically won the league in January. How does that sound, Mark?
Does that mean we can let Mullin and Davis go to Qatar?
Yeah, with that many points ahead,
no.
Mullin can be the top scorer in the World Cup and the National League.
There you go. That's fair enough, isn't it?
Before was there a rumour today that somebody was going to buy Salford? He was going to Salford.
That was a troll Twitter account.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before I continue with the upbeat positivity, am I allowed a little poke at Shrewsbury?
Of course you can.
Oh, good man.
There's more Wrexham fans in Whitchurch than there are Shrewsbury fans.
Hey, quite as it should be. I always it always stuck in my head when Ricketts left us for Shrewsbury, and he said the reason was because Shrewsbury are a bigger club with bigger support, and I was like a dog with a bone because I wasn't. I'll be honest. Very happy with Ricketts about that, and I went through all their home games for that season, and found the away support and took it out. Although their average attendance was bigger than ours that season, their average attendance was boosted by the fact that Sunderland brought 2,000, that Charlton brought 2,000, that Portsmouth brought 2,000. The actual average number of home games was higher at Wrexham games and Shrewsbury games, even though they were two divisions higher up. Mr. Ricketts. But anyway, I'm not bitter. I'm just angry.
Now, eh?
Exactly. He'd be open for a job, I'm sure, but I'm not sure we'll oblige. To continue the positivity, though, you were saying about Wrexham shirts. I think that's so true. You can feel it in the town. You can feel it in the region. Funnily enough, today in work, I was talking to the PE department, and they were saying that on the last charity-owned clothes day, they were standing on the yard counting all the kids who'd chosen to come in Wrexham kit. and they were saying they couldn't believe how many kids were in Wrexham kit. I've noticed the same thing. I've also genuinely, I get kids walking down the corridor singing the Paul Mullins song to me. There's always been Wrexham fans at the school, but right now it really feels massive. And I was saying to them as well that, you know, on the morning of the trophy final, when we were driving through town, or when I was driving to the ground to pick you guys up, Chay up, sorry, the number of people wandering around in Wrexham shirts. Now, I know that's because probably most of them are catching buses. I do get that. But I just thought, this feels like a big city which has got a big match on. You know, it felt like the morning of Champions League day at Liverpool. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People wandering around having their early breakfast in the pub in their Wrexham kit, getting ready for the day. It felt really special. It was eerie. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
It's like the calm before the storm, and I feel like it's not just like that. You know, the FA Trophy was like that to an extent, but it's like going to the Wealdstone game where people are going to Spoons before, well, Spoons or other pubs are available.
But they are all bad, younger listeners.
Early before the bus, and you know that there just seems to be that really big, that Wrexham games are now not just we'll go watch Wrexham because it's the local football. It's the big occasion, which, as you said, Mark, does feel the club sort of feels like a big League One Championship team again, and it's been amazing. It has. It's been an amazing season. So, guys, other than Dover and Stockport at home, what's been your favourite game this season?
That's tough.
It is.
I sort of want to say,
maybe.
Oh yeah. Why, Neil?
Notts County was a great game of football, which we should have won. It was I would say it was the best performance I've seen this season, as in the quality of football played was against Notts County in the second half.
Yeah.
I thought Wrexham was just stupendous then. You know, unfortunately, it was a 1-1 draw, but they should have won that. But yeah, I'd say that was maybe the best game I've seen them play this season. Was, you know, you can say about the Dover comebacks and the Stockport, brilliant, but quality of football they played against Notts County, they battered them in the second half.
Yeah,
I would say, right, you've actually made me change my mind, because I was thinking of away games, away batterings, the 5-0 at Aldershot, when we got a bit, well, I wouldn't say turned over. I think the abandoned game had to be abandoned, but nonetheless, Aldershot didn't cover themselves with glory the way they handled that, or the way they didn't give refunds. But the way we went there the second time, and there was just that edgy feeling in the stomach of, oh, we won this game once. Please don't let it be a different game. That would be so Wrexham, wouldn't it? You win the game, it gets rained off, you go there, we don't turn up, they do, and we lose it. And that is, it's going to hurt. And instead, we finished that job off. We absolutely, well, pardon the phrase, wiped their face in the mud, didn't we, really? Well, it wasn't as muddy as the first game. But I don't think I'm going to go for that because, Neil, you're right. I can't really ignore that passage of games, the home games, and I think I'm going to go after Christmas when we really started hurting everybody. And the reason you were thinking about Boreham Wood is why I'm going for Halifax. Halifax were flying.
Yeah.
They were absolutely flying. And a lot of people are looking at them and thinking, the way they're coming up on the rails, they could overtake us. And they turned up and I don't want to sound, maybe it's not a pleasant word to use, but I think it's the appropriate word to use. We didn't beat them. We belittled them. We were at them from the first whistle. They couldn't bring the ball down. They were a team that moved the ball around well. They could not get out of their own half because we were constantly at them. The energy was amazing. It sort of gets summed up with James Jones's goal when he's just chasing everything, following things up when time's running out, but he's still got all that energy. And he's just, it's almost a goal for pressing rather than a goal for approach play and just chasing and finding that clever finish because we've caused them to panic and lose the game on their ready for the umpteenth time. And it's only 3-1 because their keeper made some good saves, because we missed some chances and because they scored a worldie with the last kick of the game. But that game could have been 6 or 7. And against a high quality team in excellent form. So I think I'd probably go that one.
Yeah.
But that was an excellent game. I'm going to go for Wealdstone away because for that previous week, if you remember, there's like a storm going on and no one was sure whether the game was actually going to go ahead. Even to that day, we were on the bus on the way down. We were all really scared, got to the ground, and all credit to Wealdstone and the pubs around Wealdstone. They were so hospitable, so lovely. The best time I've ever had in London. We got to the ground. We played awful for most of the game. We conceded a penalty from what I can remember. And we scored 2 goals in the last 10 minutes. And that away end, I have never seen anything like it in my life. But the barriers collapsed because they obviously weren't used to having fans like Wrexham before. Everyone was just falling over on top of each other. And it was just like one of those, crazy away days that I'll always remember. So yeah, I'd have to say Wealdstone away. That was a cracking day out.
What about the best moments of the season for you guys?
Ooh.
Not necessarily a game, but just a moment. It might be when you realise how good we are, or just something really strange on the side of it.
Let me have a think. Go on, Mark, you go first.
I'm tempted to just say I have spoken to Aaron Hayden because I know I'll be, telling my great grandchildren this. Was Aaron Hayden real, Pappy Griff? Yes, Aaron Hayden actually existed. He's not a myth. But I think the points where maybe I haven't got just one. I loved it when I saw Mark from New Zealand at Wembley waving at the front of the press box at us.
Yeah,
because I think that summed up one of the very special things this season, that kinship and community amongst the fans. I know I started off by saying the way the fans have been in the ground has been amazing, but as well, that community that we've enjoyed on Wrexham Player is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And the way people, as you mentioned before, come from around the world, contribute and are able to feel part of it, and the amazing comments and contributions they make and the kindness they show to us. I think that's been a genuinely special thing, which shows why sport can transcend just the game and be something important, social, and quite frankly, important in building up better societies.
Mark, and I would add basically that I think it was this season I really started doing the commentary for for Wrexham, and really nervous, but at the end of the day now I really enjoy doing it with you guys and broadcasting to the Wrexham fans all over the world. And I'd say that would be my highlight of this year is getting more involved in the media team and doing this radio commentary with you guys on the home games.
Well, we should award you the Max Cleworth Newcomer of the Year award then, shouldn't we? Rookie of the Year.
I'd like a stat off you, Mark. I know your stats are good on your point, but how many away games this season have we actually sold out our allocation to the away fans?
I have no idea. And I might be able to give me some time. I think I'd have to go through.
I can't imagine there's that many where we didn't sell out our full allocation of away tickets. So
I think that's going to be a tricky one to find, although it would be a wonderful stat. I was thinking this morning about percentage of games we've filled the grounds compared to other seasons, which again is a tricky one to prove, really.
Go back to your day as well. I just said the Halifax win where we scored 2 goals away in the last couple of minutes.
Yeah.
A Halifax to win, and there was 1,800 away fans there on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, my favourite personally was being able to take my stepson Taylor to his first game in the FA Trophy, and him being only 4, he doesn't know what's going on. He only lasted 87 minutes, didn't last the whole thing, but being able to see these are the fans of the future, and they're going to be seeing probably one of the best, if not the best era of being a Wrexham fan, and this is the start of something. That was a really nice moment for me, and we beat Bournemouth 3-0 that day. So yeah. So an excellent season it's been, and next season is going to be, well, if it's anything like this season, yeah, it's going to be brilliant. And I personally think, because of Stockport and Grimsby going up, I personally think we could potentially be an unstoppable force.
I'm Jake Hyde, and this is Dragonheart.
Well, Mark, we all saddened to hear the news of the passing of Geoff Hunter, a player before my time, but I'm sure you have stories.
I have
you
stories.
Can talk about yourself.
I most certainly have stories.
Yeah.
Look, firstly, I've got to say, Geoff Hunter, you know, I'm not saying it makes me feel old. I already feel old, but it is saddening when players that you liked as a teenager, when you hear the news like that, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I used to love watching him. Geoff Hunter was definitely fell into that category. He was a youth player of Man United as a striker. And by the time he came to us from Port Vale, and there's a thing, this makes you think about how recruitment is so much different these days, because Dixon McNeil, he always bring in players from, like, well, not always, but an awful lot of players would come in from Huddersfield, Port Vale, Hereford. So he obviously had connections there, and people saying, bring him in, you know, like he's a legend at Hereford. So he must have had mates on the coaching staff saying, this lad's tasty. So a lot of our players came from the sources. We brought in Geoff Hunter and John Bowden from Port Vale, 2 midfielders, and they were big players for us in the 80s. A time when a lot of players didn't cover themselves with glory for us, but those 2 did. Hunter, like I said, he was with us for 4 years. He was a United schoolboy and a striker, and you could see that in him, because when he first came, we were using him more as a sort of creative midfielder, and he was a nice player. You know, he moved the ball around well. He had a good work rate. He was a nice player to watch. He sort of reinvented himself as a sort of epic scrapper. And I used to love, you know, so he would be able to play the ball. He'd be able to do the pretty stuff, but he'd snap into people like you were allowed to in the 80s, like nobody's business. So he was like, he was your ideal player. He'll do a bit of class, and then bang, he'll stick some lad in Rose's head. He was great, a really wholehearted player. My favourite story about him, funnily enough, is about that sort of thing. I mentioned Neil Salathiel earlier, and he was saying that he told me that there was a game at Halifax. You always used to lose at Halifax, and we were playing really badly, and he was battling away like crazy, Hunter. Near the end of the first half, he got stamped on his foot. In the last minute or so of the first half, he's limping around really badly. So he goes in at half time, and the physio, George Showell, is like, how bad is it? How bad is it? And the Hunter says, it's fine. I'll run it off. Get your boot off. Let me have a look. No, I'm carrying on. And so he refused to take his boot off. He carried on, played the rest of the game, was diving in tackles as ever and crunching into people and leading us forwards. And we lost. And then he came off the pitch, and he said he just walked in the changing room. The whole changing room in silence when he took his boot out, held her out in front of him, and just tipped loads of blood onto the dressing room floor because he gashed his foot, and he was just bleeding throughout this half time and the second half. And he knew, obviously. And it was just, but I'm playing for Wrexham, so I've got to, I'm gritting my teeth, and I'm getting through.
Wow, what a warrior.
Yeah, well, exactly. So 4 years, he got injuries in the latter. First 2 years, he barely missed a game. Second seasons, he got in like half seasons because he did pick up injuries, which was obviously a shame. He did get to play some European games for us, which was fantastic. And I think that's a real testimony to him as well, because that was in the brief, weird time when English players counted as foreign for Welsh team. So Hunter's English. So you're only allowed, I think, 4 English players. We got up to all sorts of shenanigans to get a team together. We had Jeff Cooper, who was the most Yorkshireman you've ever seen, suddenly discovered a Welsh grandmother and was able to get himself registered as a Welshman. I mean, Jeff Cooper would walk around with a whippet under his arm and a flat cap on, even when he was playing. So, I mean, this was nonsense. We did all sorts of things. We still had to play kids. Sometimes, weirdly, we picked a couple of lads against Ploiest of Romania. They played in both legs. They looked good, actually. Never played again.
Wow.
Lee Jones, who, of course, went on to have an excellent career with us and with other clubs. He makes his debut as a substitute against Man United alongside Geoff Hunter. as a 17-year-old who I think was thought of as a prospect, but nowhere near ready. And I think that was a huge good thing for him. Sometimes you can spoil players, can't you? Throw them in too early. But he went out there and took to it like a duck to water and hit a fabulous 30-yard lob or dipper, Jamie Vardy against Liverpool style, that hit the top of the bar, if I remember correctly, the keeper beaten. And he knew then, all right, this kid's tasty. And next season, he's banging goals in at West Ham. But Hunter, like I say, he got into that side, even though you can only have so many Englishmen. So some regular players just didn't play. But Hunter got into that side. And I think that's a comment on his value to the team as a person and as a competitor and as a player. But I think this is the Uncle Griff's bedtime story point. And I admit, a lot of it's felt like a bedtime story so far. I saw you rubbing your eyes then, and I don't blame you. However, I think this Geoff Hunter story, and I'll end on this, has got to be the mother of all Geoff Hunter stories.
Uncle Griff's bedtime stories.
Wrexham used to go on training runs down Erddig. Geoff Hunter was notoriously not an enthusiastic trainer, so the squads were bemused when one day they're all lining up at the gate at the top of Green Park, and they all run down the hill, and Hunter goes sprinting off ahead of them. So this is unusual. He's usually lagging at the back, not wanting to push himself. He goes sprinting off, and everyone said, "What on earth's wrong with him? It's a long run, this." And he's charging off. He disappears round the corner into the woods. And they're thinking, what the hell's going on? They jog down the hill. They come round the corner, and I don't know why. It's not my place to say why. Suddenly, jumping out in front of them is a completely naked Geoff Hunter. A character.
They don't make footballers like that anymore, do they?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be said. That'll be a morale booster, won't it?
A boot full of blood. That's...
Uncle Griff's bedtime stories.
That's the title of this podcast.
Perfect.
Fitting tribute there, Mark. It was nice. It's nice to hear, stories of players of the past, and on behalf of everyone at Dragonheart, it's sad condolences.
I'm Luke Young, and this is Dragonheart.
Well, Wales, we have finally reached the World Cup, something that I thought I'd never, ever see. But yeah, it was an emotional game, wasn't it? For many reasons, Mark. To be playing Ukraine and how excellent they played as well throughout the game. For me, it was a really fun game to watch, really high level. Yeah, what are your emotions after seeing that? Because it was a cracking game.
Oh, I was delighted. I was very relieved. That second half went very slowly, didn't it?
Yeah.
I've got to say, I'm sure we'll talk about some of the absolutely heroic individual performances, but something that I think has been strengthened and carried through from Gary Speed's foundations through Chris Coleman now to Robert Page, beg your pardon, is a sense that when we have the points in the game when, okay, to use that Spanish phrase I like, you have to suffer, it feels like a team that can dig in, can suffer, and then can come out the other side. The defensive shape is sound, and then if it does get pierced, there's always someone like Ben Davis who will hurl themselves at the ball. There's always someone like Wayne Hennessy, our second choice goalkeeper, I thought, who's going to put in a world-class performance and stop everything. And although I'm not a big fan of this sort of analysis, it's very tempting to think, Welsh fans pride themselves on their fire and passion. And that was an extremely passionate performance, but passion with organisation and with that mental strength and self-belief of, we've done this before. We've had good teams put us under pressure, but we all pull together. We do our jobs. We dig in. If they get through us, somebody will do something to stop it. And we will get through this and get to the point where we can start to get closer to Ramsey and Bale and start hurting them. And that's what I love. That if we struggle, we can still win.
I 100% agree, Mark. It was a real pleasure to watch, to be fair. And, what I love about this Welsh side, and the Welsh media and everything about it, I really believe Wales is a footballing nation and not a rugby nation. You know, as you know, look at what the WRU are doing. At this moment in time, did at the moment. You know, but you look at the FAW, they do tweets in Welsh. You know, the heed before the game. The players get it, the fans get it, the FAW get it. It's compared to when I first started watching Wales in the Gary Speed, Ryan Giggs, Robert Earnshaw days, where we had fantastic players, but never could really gel because no one was really into it. And you were playing Azerbaijan in front of 6,000 people in the Millennium. We are now in harmony, and this team is something to be really proud of, aren't they, Neil?
Oh, very, very, very much so. Although, you know, watching the game, yes, we took the lead through, you know, the own goal, and you know, Ukraine had some great shots on goal, and fair play to the keeper. You know, he made, as you say, world-class saves. But then we hit the post again, so it was a very nervy game to watch. You know, I saw them play Romania down in Cardiff for a qualifier, and we lost out there. I saw them. Remember watching them play Scotland down at the old Cardiff Minion Park, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Oh no, was it Anfield?
It was Anfield. It was Anfield.
Anfield was 77.
Yeah,
I think it was the Vetch in 86.
Yeah, and I can remember vaguely watching that on telly, and the disappointment that, you know, we're so near yet so far, and to actually be able to go there this time. And for me, it's just a shame it is where it is in Qatar. Yeah. You know, it's something a lot of fans would have loved to have gone to, and a lot of fans may not go to because of where it is and the high cost of it all. But a fantastic achievement. And as Chay said, you know, the passion that the players are showing when they're belting out that anthem at the beginning brings tears to my eyes. You know, you feel that passion. And for them all to be able to learn that anthem themselves, you know, and belt it out. And then at the end of the game, they all belted out Amahid. And you can see the passion between the players, the fans, and it's just incredible, you know. And that's why we need at Wrexham to get a purpose-built international stadium there, so they can come up and play in front of the North Wales fans who is just as passionate about their football.
Yeah, absolutely right. Sign the petition, everybody. We need to push that. We need that levelling up fund to make that happen. Sign the petition. Let's get a big stadium in the North Wales. 100% right, Neil. I've got to say as well, what about Bangor's own Wayne Hennessy, and indeed Nico Williams of Kevin, because my goodness, they were both outstanding, weren't they?
Wayne Hennessy made some incredible saves, and how he's not been a first choice keeper at a team for the last few seasons, I don't really know. I think he was third choice at Palace a couple of years back. He's second choice at Burnley. He may have a chance to be first choice now. Burnley getting relegated, I'm assuming Nick Pope will get sold on. He's a class act, isn't he? And with him being from Bangor, you know, a local lad too. It's just brilliant. I'm lost for words when it comes to Sunday.
You know, there was that one world-class save where he dived across the goal and put out his outstretched hand, and it was strong enough to keep the ball out, and it went over the top of the bar, where, you know, it should have gone in the net. You know, it should have been 1-1. You know, and I do feel quite sorry for Ukraine, basically because what's going on in their country. But at the end of the day, it is a football game. But, you know, it should have been maybe down to UEFA and said, well, let's take them with us as well, and just, you know, mix it up a little bit and just add an extra team to the group just for the country, basically, even though they lost to Wales, but just say, oh, let's take you along as well.
I thought we handled it right, didn't we? The fans were brilliant with them.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The way our players went to applaud them at the end. But having said that, you know, football's nothing compared to what's happening in Ukraine, and, you know, we have our destiny to achieve on the football pitch. It's trivial, but yeah, we couldn't give that over out of sympathy. It was and the same Nico Williams as well. I thought Nico Williams was fantastic. Brilliant. He's so positive and direct and enthusiastic. He has no fear, does he?
He's playing at a very high level too. I'm assuming there's strong rumours that Fulham will be signing him this season. That's what I'd like to see, because I'd like to see him play regular Premier League football, because the potential in that lad is incredible.
Oh yeah, he's terrific.
His pace and his ball skills are fantastic, and he's great going down the wings. And yeah, another local lad. It's a shame he wasn't on Wrexham's books.
His brother was briefly, wasn't he?
Oh, right.
Yeah, Kian was it second youngest player ever to play for Wrexham? He came on in one of those mad Scottish games and immediately got poached by, I want to say, Swansea. So
Burnley, was it? Oh,
I'm talking about Wales again, about possibly Bale coming to Wrexham. I don't think so, but there we go.
No, seen Rob tweet about that. It's a bit laugh. We can dream.
Yeah.
Maybe we can produce our own Gareth Bale, who we can, sell onto a big Premier League club for multi millions.
I'll keep it. Become a big Premier League club.
Oh yeah, we just become a big Premier League club. Yeah, Champions League, here we come.
I can exclusively reveal that Gareth Bale will not be signing for Wrexham, but he will be holidaying in Rumbo.
Well, on that bombshell, lads, it's been a cracking podcast. It's been really nice to speak about the season as a whole, and Wales, of course, because that was really fun. A nice way to end the footballing season. So thanks both, and we'll see you next week. This has been Dragonheart.
I'm Harry Lennon, and this is Dragonheart.